Hello and welcome to All Things Ayahuasca, where we explore plant medicine in depth with Michael Geron, who has had over a decade of experience working with the master plants. And today we're talking about common expectation pitfalls that people come to ceremony with.
Hey guys, how you going? Hey Anna.
Hey, how are you?
We're pretty good.
We've just been having a chat before we started, and we're going to have a ceremony in a few days. And I kind of am feeling like that build up of energy that you feel like on the approach to a ceremony. I just was like clocking that right now as we're getting started, that there's a ramping up feeling.
That's right, especially before a full moon. So that makes it even better. Full moon in Capricorn on Thursday and Friday. Off we go.
Yeah, so just I'm feel like it's like, oh, that like pre ceremony vibe, I'm really feeling it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Same
like,
here.
thing, things are how do
But
you
you
put
know, we
that?
are we are honestly we are in a quite a patchy time during these days. It's very very intense astrologically speaking. So put that on top of everything,
Yeah.
and you'll feel it 10 times fold, huh?
Yeah. And I just like, this isn't what we were planning on saying, but just that on the brink of a ceremony, you can be feeling stuff that you don't really understand why you're feeling a certain way, like agitated or intense or scratchy or something, and it's actually the material or ayahuasca's working already, preparing you or raising or bringing up the stuff that's going to be worked on um, in the ceremony.
Yeah, that's right. I found that a lot of the time the astrology is just really screaming. We're looking at as above, so below kind of thing. That
Yes.
process, and oftentimes the astrology speak really loudly during the ceremonies, and especially during the full moon, the energy is going up. The energy of the moon pulls everything up,
Hmm.
and all the energy is going upwards, and it's really high intensity outwardly expressive ceremony versus the dark moons where we are, the energy of the moon is pulling us, it's actually the earth is the prominent energetic that pull us to the core of the earth. So we're actually going into the earth versus going outwardsly with the moon outwards or
Hmm.
to the core of the earth. I just found the magnetic forces really having a strong effect on the character of the ceremony.
Yeah, that like connection to astrology has become really pronounced. I was talking to an astrologer about something that happened to me, like the most profound experience in the last ceremony that I had, which was a rebirthing experience. And I was talking to an astrologer about it, and she was looking at what was happening in the astrology of the moment of the ceremony, and she was like blown away by the precision of my chart, what happened to me, and also the particular chart of the moment that we drank ayahuasca in the ceremony. And yeah, it's amazing that, I mean, why is it amazing? Because this is what we're talking about. The interconnectedness of everything is what we're talking about. And astrology is all about the interconnectedness of everything. So it's really beautiful to feel that so alive.
Yeah, I mean, I think through the plants, through the ceremonial work, we are able to really put our focus on those layers of consciousness where we are able to, really see the interconnectedness. So we are exploring the astrology, how it intertwined with the ceremonial work, because spirit orchestrating everything together, spirit orchestrating the heavens, and then we're witnessing the interconnectedness of the ceremonial work that is intertwined with the heavens, and how your deep psyche is affected in a, an unexplainable way,
Yeah, and astrology is like, I remember one ceremony where my intention was to connect more with grandmother, to build that relationship, which I felt kind of shy about asking for. It's like, am I allowed to ask for this? Um, and very quickly at the big in that ceremony, she's like, I what were the words? She's like, I've been waiting for you just as much as you've been waiting for me. And the words were, you have a date with destiny. And I really got this sense of like your time and place, like when you're born, it gives you your time and place and your relationship with absolutely everything. It's your coordinates. It's your coordinates in the universe in
Yeah.
relationship to the planets, the stars, and everything. And I really got that hit in that ceremony of like, this is your place in, and it's your connection to all of life. Your coordinates in the universe is your time
Mm,
and place of birth,
yeah,
which is what your astrology describes.
that's
So,
right.
all right, shall we get on to topic?
Yeah. What's the topic for today?
We're talking about expectations.
We'll have expectation, don't we?
Well, maybe people can expect to have of course we come with expectations. How can you not come with expectation? But there's some common problematic expectations.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had a personal encounter with expectations recently, where a person that is quite deeply related to me have quite a strong expectations of me, you know,
Hmm.
and it was his expectation of me, what I should be doing according to his expectations, and my behavior or what I was thinking according to my belief and my knowing deep within my heart were not meeting his expectations. And it was right on point, it was like, okay, so you were expecting me to behave in such way, and this is not how things working for me, but you should have communicated that earlier and let me know what you were thinking or what you were feeling about it, and then we can have a mature conversation and talk about it 2 years earlier. But you held it inside yourself for all this time until you explodes on me. So it's like, I mean, we could have I had a really clear solution where I'm coming from, which will resolve the situation like that. But instead, it was a mini cathartic event. It wasn't like too crazy, but um, expectations is something that are not healthy, generally speaking. It's something that we want to be able to communicate freely beforehand. It's something that we hold inside ourselves and not communicating outwardly. Sometimes we don't even know that we have the expectations, but that's what we think inside of ourselves, what I'm expecting from everyone else around me to behave according to my belief. The problem is that we don't have the same belief and the same awarenesses, and that's why things getting into problems, right? So the whole thing about expectations, especially in the ceremonial work, actually, by the way, it was related to the ceremonial work, what I was mentioning earlier, which is interesting because it was directly
Yeah.
guided by the medicine, and she brought it up just before ceremony. So it was really interesting because she's big on those specific interactions, and how we interact with each other. So, when we're having expectations, it's about us really realizing that I'm having that some sort of expectations from someone else. It might be a spirit of a medicine, it might be a person. the energetic template is identical, and especially when we're talking about ayahuasca or wachuma or anything like that, they do have those emotions, they do have feelings that respond to those expectations that, by the way, they found highly offensive. They actually find it offensive to them because it's disrespectful, and they don't like it. It's something
Yeah.
that we have an expectations of you without you being able to communicate to those things towards a highly advanced force. And we need to come much more humble and much more humble with reverence towards them.
Yeah, I think that maybe one way to look at that is, I mean, it's such a classic psychological thing of like unconscious expectations lead to disappointment. Like if you're disappointed, there's an expectation that you've had that has been unconscious. So you can kind of reverse engineer that.
That's
And
right.
another way to reverse engineer that is if you come out of ceremony disappointed, maybe your unconscious expectations are being shown to you.
That's right. Or disappointed at yourself, or
Yeah. So that's why we kind of trying to talk about common expectations so that they're conscious and not unconscious. If you've got an expectation that is an assumption and not a fact, then you're going to carry that with you, and you're going to be blind to it, and that can impact what's possible for you in a ceremony. And that's why we're trying to like make them conscious.
yeah, oftentimes the medicine, going back for what we talked earlier about the interconnectedness of everything and everything, the medicine orchestrated it, the spirit orchestrated all these things. We think it just by chance, but the higher hands that move in everything around everything make us oftentimes feel in this specific way. So they bring up all these issues, they bring up all these aspects of ourselves into the surface for us to look at. And oftentimes it's confusing a little bit because we are unaware of these unconscious
Yeah.
behaviors, those things coming up to the surface, whatever that may be. And we're not realizing that it was actually brought up in a specific way, whatever it may be, disappointed, for example. She made it in that way specifically for you to feel that disappointment, so you can actually go on that thread and explore that specific set of psychological issues that we may suffer from being disappointed about myself, or haven't been supported by my parents, or any of those core issues that created the psychological issues around disappointment, for example. So that's often what happens, yeah.
Yeah, I think can be really tricky to integrate when you're disappointed because it didn't go the way you think you wanted it to go, or you think you were going to have an amazing mind blowing experience, and it didn't go that way. For example, just to one expectation is it's going to be so mind blowing and so enormous, and I'm going to have the biggest healing of my life in one night, and nothing seemed to happen. That's one common expectation. I'm going to like heal everything in one night, and maybe you don't think that anything happened. you know
Mm.
um, and it can be really hard to if one of the things that she's showing you is around control or expectations. It can be really hard to get that message from that, because you can really just fixate on that wasn't what I wanted it to be, that nothing happened for me, that wasn't, it doesn't work for me. Ayahuasca
Yeah,
works for everyone else and it
yeah, yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah.
And I think that's something, the nuance of understanding those lessons come over time when you're working with ayahuasca over time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a couple of threads there that I would love to explore. For example, we have that layer of, having the full trust in the medicine. We're having that layer of consciousness. So oftentimes we're having a full trust. That's the energy that we should approach the medicine. When we come in towards her, we should have a full trust with the spirit. Often they say the confia de la medicina. Trust the spirit. We always come in with a trust that the spirit, no matter what, will bring us what we need to express, to explore, to experience. And through that trust, the moment that we have that deeper knowing within ourselves, everything fades away. Everything behind the scene is fading away, fundamentally, really. So all the expectations, all these things that are fading away behind, because we know the medicine is there and give us what we need to work with. So that's an amazing solution, really. So always bring in the trust and knowing that whatever happens for a reason, and we're not getting caught up in the head about it. It's just the way it is. And we have an acceptance to that part. Now, it can get quite complicated, right? Because
Yeah.
oftentimes we can explore and having, those layers of, the facilitation haven't been great, or, it's not exactly what we're supposed to experience, or there was some misdoing in the ceremony. And for example, the energy of the ceremony wasn't matching you, or you had different events before the ceremony that caused you to be having a certain way, or you have another set of events that bring you together to the ceremony, and then we're having a condition that was made beforehand, and then you come to the ceremony, and then we are going through a process that is not always aligned with spirit.
I think you have to explain that a little bit more. I don't understand what you mean.
Oftentimes, we can have a sort of facilitation that potentially the facilitation wasn't great, or there is someone that is not aligned with spirit in terms of the facilitation, and that can create a wounding in the space, or misdoing, or misalignment within the ceremonial space. That's one layer. Or another set of event that may have occurred just before the ceremony to a specific participant, and that will cause a specific set of psychological interactions according to the event that happened. There is a specific set of traumas that the facilitator didn't know about, and that can cause a misdoing in the space. There is a misalignment because not all the information was communicated beforehand. It's similar to expectation. It's caused a specific set of expectations because it wasn't communicated. I'm talking about misalignment with the spiritual energies. So we may experience, because of specific set of event, a misalignment and convoluted of energies. So the energies are crossing each other, and then we have to explore how to undo them.
But it sounds like, well, that sounds tricky for to navigate for anyone. Like if it's unconscious, and I've got a lot of questions. Like how can you, as a facilitator, get all the information you need? It's how do you know what to tell your facilitator, and in your pre-conversations? Because you're not going to tell your whole life story, or some of those chance things that can happen before a ceremony are part of the design. Like we're talking about, we're pre-ceremony now. Things are alive, they're active, stuff is happening now that's part of that. But how do I know, like how do we know what to communicate with the facilitator so that all the information is available?
I think it's a natural thing. If we are tuning in within ourselves, that should be naturally up in the surface. If there is such an event, it should be naturally up in the surface, like to be looked at and to communicate it. But if we're not talking about it and sharing, look, for example, you go to a ceremony, you have something, an event that happened to you during the week, triggered you, or 2 weeks before. This is something that's up in the space for you. It could be quite problematic. You have an awareness that that's happening in the space. It's about communicating a little bit, 5 minutes of conversation, 10 minutes conversation beforehand, to bring it up in the open. And then it's not like in a full, it's in the unconscious layers, right? Or unexpressed layers. So it's like still in the shadow. And then what we may experience, I will have to, for example, sense that there's something there. I don't know what, because it hasn't been exposed. Oftentimes I could go and tap into those energies, but then it's making my work much harder. And then I know that there is like under layers that may affect the healing situation. And we're potentially having a cross of energies, and they're kind of like bouncing into each other, and it can create an internal convoluted energy inside of yourself. It may be million situations, right? So I cannot give you
Yeah.
like a specific example right now. Oftentimes it could be, for example, male-female interactions are like that often.
But I think that's, what we're talking about is it's not that simple because people don't have that awareness. They're not connected. They're coming to ceremony to build their connection and their self-awareness. And that for you, what's sort of simple and obvious, because you're so connected, for other people, they may have no understanding to make any correlation to what happened last week with that interaction with someone else that has affected me unconsciously, and that's going to play out. But I do think that often those to keep an eye out for what has happened recently that's on your mind, and often those things do be spoken about in the conversations around in the time before the ceremony, when we're spending time and having conversations with each other and talking about our intentions, and those things kind of do show up. So it's just keep an eye out for like what's disturbing you, what's happening, what's popping up in your life, because it's going to be relevant, and likely, you'll learn more about that in the ceremony. And I think that to encourage people to communicate, like I think it can be intimidating to communicate with the shaman and to know how much to talk to, what to say, how much to say. I think it is like a bit of a tricky, hard to know thing of how much personal stuff. We've had our check-in, we've had our get to know each other. How much detail do I need to go into with you about my life?
Yeah, I guess it's depend on the layer of work. I mean, it's very complex because, again, we're talking about different levels of, working with the medicine and how deeper people are able to tap into while they're doing this work. So, sometimes, just a person serve a cup and put the music on and that's it, kind of thing. And sometimes it's more involved, and sometimes, they can play music, but there's no involvement at all because there's like 30 people in the space, or 40 people, or 50 people, and they're just letting you do what you do, and that's it. So it's a completely different level of exploration. When you go into a ceremony with 40 people, you're just another person in the space. There's no personal interaction whatsoever. That's the truth. So just another person there, and there's no. It's not even possible to be explored. That's the reality. So it's only around the 12 to 15 people, and there is like more of emphasis on personal healing and what's going on for you in your life, and the ability to actually do this work with tapping into this deeper shamanic energy healing and what we call hands-on work when you do that, the ceremonial work. And then you are able to tap into those different layers, to these different pathways that we can explore. And obviously, we can go even deeper than that in a smaller groups. But this is we can get into the area of personal healing. So it's just that there is like a smaller group, and there is a specific set of energy work that needs to be expressed in order to heal specific, like major traumas or intense experiences that need to be healed. So that's just different layers of work.
And I think, that leads me to another expectation. And I think that is that it's all going to happen during the ceremony. Like the healing happens during the ceremony. And actually, a lot of the healing happens after the ceremony, that the medicine and what healing is activated during the evening of the ceremony is happening, like in the days, weeks, months after. And, on that point that we just discussed, I think it's really vital to raise the next day if there's any distress, discomfort, or something happening, that to talk about it in the ceremonial space that is still happening the next day, in the integration circle, in the sharing circle, to raise that with the facilitator, shaman, and other, so that you can get that eye onto it and help take that as an important part of the information you're being given.
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage people that if there is a disappointment, for example, or a disturbance, that you go to your facilitator, shaman, and to talk about it, ideally the next day, and in the coming days, so that you get that, because I think it's a really sophisticated level of working with the medicine to understand that I'm really disappointed, and that's been designed by the medicine so that I can go to something really deeply unconscious in me, that is actually all coordinated to help illuminate and heal ultimately.
Yeah. Beautifully put. Thank you.
Another expectation is that instant healing. I'm going to have this massive healing in one night. It's going to heal everything. That's a really big, I think, common problematic expectation that people have.
Yeah. And going back to what you said earlier as well, oftentimes we have the whole process. Obviously, we have different types of ceremonies, and some ceremonies are a bit more intense and everything can go haywire, or we can have like more of like subtle energy thing going on. But in some ceremonies we have to work through the ceremony and what happened on the healing for 2 or 3 years. We're having through 2 or 3 years of integration of what the hell happened in that ceremony. I need to process that. Yeah, it's rather intense. And that's more than enough for me for the next year or so. And it's critical to keep going and do the integration work and psychotherapy or whatever works for you, whether it can be body work or anything along these lines, and always bring it into the back of your mind that trust in the medicine, trust in the process. That's how I'm growing. This is the path of growth, and internalizing that process, that it's something that is happening inside of me, and there is a reason why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. Nonetheless, whatever it is, fundamentally behind everything, whatever I'm experiencing, I need to trust the medicine and go, even if it's went the other way around, whatever. This is the path of growth where we are, no matter what, we're taking responsibility for what we're doing and our actions. Even, we chose somehow to go to that event. It was my choice somehow. I still have to take some sort of responsibility and learn from that. Even if it went the other way around, I need to learn from that and get my own personal growth and empowerment for my choices and how I'm choose to do my life. either according to my traumas or according to my growth and my heart desires. So we could have that conflict between the decision deciding from the head or deciding from my heart. If I'm deciding from my head, most likely I will play out the trauma part of what is up for me. If I'm playing from my heart, I know I choosing from my heart. I know it's going to be aligned with myself, aligned with my higher self, and so forth. I have that instinct, that natural, yes, that's what I need to experience. That's what I need to go through. I'm trusting the medicine, and that's how I'm exploring that part of myself that I need to go through that healing, if it is, even if it's not comfortable, and then I have to do this 2 years of 1 year, whatever that may be, 3 months of intense integration, and that leads me to the next part. Expecting that the ceremony should look like what happened to me last time, or having the visuals, and only if I have the visuals, that intense floating of crazy kaleidoscopic weird expressive of the medicine in a DMT land, that's the only time when I'm having a good journey. Oftentimes people
Yeah.
are that's the expectation. The astronauts, the the psychedelic astronauts, the ones who seek, to see like the whole explosive, massive, crazy, full on experience. Doesn't work like that in a medicine in a medicine world. The medicine sometimes like that,
Mm.
sometimes like that. It's not like having a DMT that people take on puffs and you just go in somewhere and then you come back and then you're like, yay. I had an amazing psychedelic journey, but nothing has
Yeah.
been learned. I mean, I saw all these things and it was really intense and that was great. Now what? So really, now what? I had all these
Yeah.
experiences. I had this intense DMT experience during the grandmother. It was full on.
So what?
What's the teachings? Yeah. So this is part of our, the thing is, this is part of our natural birthright to have those visions, but we're so disconnected from them
Mm.
that every time it happened to us, we feel really excited and invigorated because we see those things and it's, oh my God, this is so amazing. But is it? Eventually it's becoming just another thing because it just, oh yeah, yeah, it's a visual, but yeah, now what? So I see all these things and then it's kind of like, yeah,
Mm.
okay. Unless, it's a very amazing vision that gives you an amazing insight about yourself, or you remember something that came through a specific set of, something about your future or the past. And even though that we're receiving this vision, we still shouldn't take that as the ultimate truth, because oftentimes it's like going to a psyche or like to a tarot reader or something like that. Oftentimes we need to see or hear something to create a specific set of choices that would lead us to a specific timeline in our lives. It doesn't mean that it's going to be manifested, that you're going to win the lottery in 2027, but it's just about you making the right choices according to your higher self. Same with the visions. You have the visions that's about you, which type of energies it's evoked within yourself, what energies, what emotions, what it evokes within yourself that will create really a healing path for you, a different set of timeline for you to walk on in the future that will direct you to a new job, a new partnership, a new, a hobby that you're creating, and will create a new path for you in your life, which in exchange create a specific healing for you because you change your whole habits, whatever you used to do, and then you started a new path in your life.
Yeah. I think when I first, after my sort of like the first time I had ayahuasca with the visuals, I think the message I really got from that was just a sense of that interconnectedness and what's behind the stuff behind the scenes. That those visuals were saying, this is what's here all the time that I can't see. And there's a sense of like that interconnectedness and the aliveness of things that is the truth that isn't available in normal waking life. And that in itself was really profound. And I also wanted to go back a minute with that whole thing of, like, you can have a difficult time or it can take a long time to integrate that. I wanted to do a couple of examples. One was I had a really, really difficult, very challenging time with Wachuma, and it was really profound. And a number of months later, and I'd been kind of sick. I had this sort of chest thing that just didn't go away. And it wasn't until I did the next grandmother ceremony that I understood that, like, that was like a purging of stuff that was really deep in my body that was coming out. And it was a continuation of that ceremony. And it was purely physical symptoms. And it was only in the next grandmother ceremony where I was having to, like, cough up. This was really like pulling it out of this phlegm that was coming out of, like, the depths of my lungs, that the connection happened that, this is a continuation of the integration of that ceremony of really massive healing around abuse and trauma. And there's no way I would have made that connection
Yeah, it's
outside of a
amazing.
ceremony. Like, there's just no way I would have understood that.
Yeah.
And another example of a client of mine, who, like 20 or so years previously had a really problematic experience in a ayahuasca ceremony, that led to really problematic psychological things. And then we had an integration session, like, that happened quite organically in a session. And the thing that the kind of break or the crossover, that you were describing before, like the crossover of energies that happened in that ceremony that were problematic and caused issues for her, ultimately were connected to childhood issues that in the end, or when that stuff actually was integrated and healed, it was the thread of, like, her childhood trauma playing out then in that ceremony. And
Yeah.
then when it gets integrated, you go, oh my God, that was really painful and difficult, but it was all the design. That's a long arc.
Yeah. Massive. Massive.
And to have that healing happen was just really amazing for her, because that had just been something that she'd been living with, of, like, a traumatic event, and to feel the connectedness of, actually, this is something that's playing out for a healing process, even though it looks like something terrible happened. That can be so liberating and profound, to go, it actually is all perfect. But that took a long time and, wasn't easy.
Yeah. Nothing like the alchemy of time, isn't it?
That's another thing about ayahuasca and time. Like, you can get a message, you can think that, the picture of time and how things unfold and the time frame that you're meant to take on the advice and do things, and, like, it's a whole other type of time, right? That she's
Yeah.
working on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, time is not a thing there, but time disappears when you're going up to the fifth dimension above 3D, That's why 10 minutes can look like
Yeah.
10 hours. I just wanted to touch on what you said earlier regarding the healing part, that, oftentimes we have to go through that, specific energy in a ceremony that create a specific interaction within ourselves. We're starting to experience the trauma again, and it's intertwined within the biology, within the yeah, the biology, the body. So the body would hold and hold, for example, in the lung, how we hold in the grief in the lung and we're grieving. I had quite a similar experience in the past where I had to, I had a ceremony and then I was like 3 months, I was just like, couldn't shake off this cough. It just like didn't stop. It just kicked my ass for months. And I'm like fairly healthy, person. It's not something that I'm usually experiencing. I'm in the mid 30s, I have like this cough, the crazy thing. I'm doing everything right. And I'm just like, didn't stop grieving, that part of myself that I was, about stuff that happened to me or what I was experiencing. And just holding. The body was holding, and I was just, after a specific ceremony, it was available for it to be released. It wasn't available until that time. And then a layer was removed. And from that moment and on, it was available for the body to start. All right, from now I can start and release it. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be 3 months, whatever that may be. And I'm just need to go through that healing process because it happened 20 years earlier or whatever. And slowly, I'm just churning through whatever is available for me in my life while I'm living, what I can do. And then the body just slowly take its time, because the body in the 3D, in the physical realm, it takes time. We cannot just like release everything within 5 minutes. The physical body needs that time to integrate, it's like a Devic kind of like entity. It's like a spirit. The spirit in the body that lives within the body needs time in this dimension. We can process it here, but then the body will just have to let it go in its own way, in its own time. And only when the time arrives, all right, that was enough, naturally, spirit will create another event for us to go and process and overcome that chunk of like a layer of the onion, when we're peeling off a specific layers that expose another layer underneath it. And then we may have a period of time of a year or two of like, now we're just threading on a gentle like ceremonies. We're not going too crazy. And then after a period of time, we're able to dig, all right, that's the next intense layer of who we are and why we are here and how we came to this world. And that's when we know that we did our work kind of thing. And we just starting to polish everything and clear it and be aware of, our triggers and being more comfortable with ourselves and being more deeply connected with who we are and what we have to do here. And then we can start and do, express ourselves more freely and do what we need to do in this dimension, in this world, in this lifetime, and start and be of service and bring all these beautiful things out into the world. Doesn't mean that we forget all the traumas. We can never forget them. It's still part of who we are. But we're able to live with them with happily and the traumatic, the PTSD, the trauma triggers will be much less triggering. We will be able to live more in harmony, more centered, more relaxed, more tune in to what is up for us.
Yeah, and I think that natural progression then is to have more to give, or to to be now then focused on how do I be of service. I think that progression of be really being self-focused and trauma-focused and pain-focused internally of like the things that are causing pain in your life and discord, as they settle and you come more into your body and into that connected space, then the natural thing is, well, what am I here to do? What am I here to give? What's my purpose? How do I serve?
Yeah.
I think another expectation that I particularly struggle with when I see it is that people aren't doing any other therapy. They just think all I need is plant medicine. That's it. And they do ceremony after ceremony after ceremony and don't do integration work or other 3D work of actually helping to how to actually, there is some psychology needed, there is some strategies needed, there are some like relational things needed and therapy needed to actually help do the healing, and they're just sort of like thinking that it's all plant medicine and nothing else is needed. So I think that can be problematic. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, that's a big one actually. Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes, it's up in the surface as well. I mean, we have this couple of layers there. Oftentimes, people come into ceremonies and it become just a thing that we do. It's becoming our temple space to connect with spirit, to connect to ourselves in a way. Oftentimes, it just become also something that we just do because it's nice and you get in your high. It's feel natural. It's feel healthy. But there's often like a type of expectation that I still have to do something inside myself, and that's why I keep doing it instead of being fully, completely honest with yourself and just say the truth to yourself. Like, look, this is the truth. You just do it because you're enabling yourself and you're enabling your trauma, and and you don't want to deal with it in your daily life. So there is a truth and honesty that is not being presented there, that people are oftentimes just keep doing it because there's something else supposedly they're telling the story to themselves, that keep emphasizing and enabling the medicine instead of being really true to yourself. Because we have to remember that fundamentally, after all, the medicine is a tool for us, and our mind is a really strong.
Yeah.
So we can take it whichever way we want. Really, after you do it for a while, you can take it whichever way you want. And you don't have to go to those places. It can be just a fun, happy days, what we call it, like the upper worlds kind of like experience. We're not going into the underworld. It can be just happy la 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 songs from beginning to end, and nothing can change. And that it's okay. It's sometimes in some layers, as long as you're not enabling the medicine and you've been true to yourself, So there's some sets of, ceremonies that need to happen like that. And I think there's good benefits to them. Not my thing, personally. I prefer to be in the underworld most of the time, but that's me. And some other people, they need to do what they need to do.
It's tricky, isn't it, how we shirk responsibility, or how we think we're doing something but we're really doing something else. I think I'm doing the deepest healing by going to ayahuasca, but I'm actually avoiding stuff. I'm avoiding the real world in some ways, and it's a little bit anti-establishment, and that the real world stuff or the mundane world, that's not it. The real thing is, this other realm that we go to, but we need both. And if you're not doing both, then there's some bypassing going on, I think.
That's it. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's actually more important to do it in your daily life than anything else, because that's where it's at. I mean, you won't be able to do anything. I mean, that's why we do it. That's why we walk this path too, so you can, be a better person when you walk it, when no one's looking. No one's looking at you right now when you're bored. In those moments, it's when you're bored and it's really mundane and there's nothing interesting or fascinating about this moment. That's the most important point, what I'm going to choose to do at that point when I'm bored and I don't know, and I just don't know what to do with myself right now. This is it, this is where it's at.
That's who the authentic you in that moment. That's who you really are.
When no one's looking, no one's there.
True. That's it. Yeah. And just another little one. I don't know if we've covered this already, really, but just that thinking, the expectation that someone's going to save me. And I think, I think it's a good one to go back to the episode of shaman versus therapist, of you're coming to have an interaction with ayahuasca or wachuma, and that's the therapist. The therapist is the plant medicine, and the shaman isn't there to save you from that. The shaman is there to facilitate you to be able to have an encounter with ayahuasca or wachuma or what you're working with. And that, like we've been saying all along, your job is to go with that or trust that, and to think that someone's going to save you from that. That's not a very helpful expectation to have. You're really on your own. Like, you've got to go. You're going into the unknown. No one's there to hold your hand. You're held in a container. There's a container and a safe container, absolutely. But it's you have to go there. It's yours.
That's it. I mean, it's your path. No one else can take you anywhere else. Like, it's your path. It's your trust in the medicine. Again, we're coming back to the trust in the medicine, trust in the process, trust.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not trusting myself, I know that I'm put myself in a situation that I'm trusting, the medicine. And from there, I'm going to gain the trust into myself and my actions and all these things. But if that part behind of why I do what I do, I trust the medicine, is that just behind me, all the expectations are melting away. And we have to go through that process ourselves. There's no one that can do it for you. There's nothing in the world that can do it for you. Even if you're being held, whatever, and there's nothing else, you still have to do it inside yourself. No matter what, it's you inside yourself have to find that power to overcome and to go to those layers that are fucking shit and are horrible, and it's just difficult. And you just have to go there. No matter how difficult it is, it's just the way it is. I mean, the trauma already happened. It's in the past. It's gone. It's finished. Now I'm here. So how I'm going to deal with that? I'm just going to push it away, or I'm just going to go like straight into the pain. So yeah, very truthful and very hard to digest sometimes, especially when we have the expectation that we need to be held and fully nourished and all these amazing things that are good in specific setting. They're good in a specific setting, but it's still, even when you've been getting the nourishment and everything and the support, you need to find it inside yourself. Regardless, this is where it's at. And that's it, I think.
Yeah, I think we do need that relational therapy in our lives. That's a functional kind of therapy, but it is different to plant medicine. That is in circle or in one-on-one therapy, where there's someone whose job it is to really hold us, and that there's really therapeutic power in someone who's really with us. And that's a different thing. Although I feel that there's no one who meets me like ayahuasca. There's no one who takes me where I need to go and is there for me like ayahuasca. Like, no therapist.
That's right.
Come close to that. Like, that's right.
That's the whole thing.
But I've been practicing surrender, but I've been practicing surrender for a long time. So so it's a different thing. So understanding that is we have to learn. And I think finish off for today, just the beauty of the next day and listening to everyone else's experiences of what and how profoundly different the same evening was for a dozen people in a room, and that we don't expect to get a deep, like, beautiful gifts from just witnessing and hearing other people's very broad and ranging, but also often like relatable experiences of people had completely different experiences to me. We were in the same room, we drank the same thing, we had the same amount, and they've had the range of what's possible is a big learning experience of learning, like, oh, this isn't just one thing that's going to happen. There's such a range of things that I can experience, that other people can experience each and every time.
Yeah.
So trust the process.
I think fundamentally
Surrender.
underneath it all, it's trust the process, trust the medicine, put your grown up boots and march on the journey towards healing.
Trust your decision that brought you here. Trust the thing that brought you here to say yes to this, that got you in the room. That didn't happen randomly like that. You're here for a reason. You're meant to be here. If you found yourself here, it's not an accident. Trust that.
Yeah.
Trust yourself. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please like, subscribe, support the channel by interacting with it. That really helps. We want to get picked up. And see you next time.